Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my shop. So here I'm pulling in my FlexVolt vacuum with a couple of T-stacks and a T-stack container for the FlexVolt track saw. Next I'm pulling in my FlexVolt 12-inch miter saw on the rolling stand that they offer. We're going to get that all set up here. I like the fact that this is mobile because this saw is pretty heavy. I think it's around 56 pounds. Stand itself is also heavy. So, having to lift this up into and out of a truck would be quite a chore. However, it is convenient to be able to transport the saw around like this on wheels. And I do like the fact that it has the arms that extend out, albeit they're not perfect and there are no end stops such as you have there on the Capex to your right in the shot. Now right here I'm pulling in the FlexVolt table saw and it is on the table saw rolling stand. Now recently I heard, one of the commenters on one of my videos said that he put his DeWalt planer on one of these stands, and I think that's actually a pretty good idea. I might look into doing that, to tell you the truth. That's if I continue to keep this DeWalt planer. I've been talking about getting the Rikon because I believe it chews up the wood chips a little bit smaller so that I can use a regular 2.5-inch Ryobi or rigid shop vac to take care of the dust. I mean, at least it works with the Rikon joiner. So right now the rigid shop vac can't keep up with my DeWalt planer, and I could spend $300 for a bird Sheelix head, but I don't know if that's really worth it. So you can kind of get an idea of what I'm trying to do here. We're going to take a look at the leveling of these different stands, like basically how they are compared one to another. Now remember, all of these products are made by the exact same company. They're all the DeWalt brands, and we're going to get to see the disparity as far as how they made these. And I'm not quite sure what they were thinking when they designed this equipment. And this is just kind of this right here is what I mean by having a system for your brand. Now, of course, these tables, they are exactly the same, so they are level. Now, remember, the garage is kind of sloped, so you may see a little bit of a variation going from left to right, but this is all good. Now, we're looking at the table saw. Now, what if you wanted to use these tables as an outfeed? Look at that drop off. Look at how unlevel that is. Now, why they wouldn't have made these tables a little bit taller or made some kind of adjustment to the stand, I don't know. But that's quite a bit of a drop off when you start looking at using this table as an outfeed. Now technically you could just let your board fall down, but it doesn't give you great support, especially if you were cutting something bigger and the board starts to tilt down. That could be kind of dangerous. And then here we're going from the base of the miter saw to the table saw, and you can see here it's a little bit better, but you can still see that it's out of level. And so it's not, you can't really use it as an extra support. As you can see, you see the gap there. If you wanted to use it in conjunction with the miter saw, like as a cutoff piece for the side. Now you have these wings, and the one thing that I find that's odd about these wings are not level even with the miter saw stand. It's off. When I have both of those wings out, I could put the level on both of the wings and it will completely clear the table. Like the table won't be touched at all, which I find is an odd design. But as you can see here, you can see how much space is there between the miter saw and the table saw. So right here you can see what I mean by, great tools, but they didn't really think about them working together. Now we're going to touch on Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee is quite unique in the sense that, for the most part, you've got the table saw here. Now we've got the 7 1/4 inch miter saw. And finally, we'll be bringing in the 12-inch miter saw, which is a beast. It's about 47 pounds or so. So you've got these 3 saws here, 1 table saw, 2 miter saws. Now, the one good thing is the miter saw stand that is sold for both of these miter saws is the same stand. And then they have the stand for the table saw. And the problem with their solution, their offering, is they only stop with a stagnant stand. So this right here is my old Ryobi table saw stand. That's the type of style stand that they have for Milwaukee. There is no rolling stand. Now, if you wanted to, you could buy a DeWalt and try to mount this to a DeWalt table saw stand and get that ability to move it around, which is fine, but Milwaukee has dropped the ball and have not offered a solution. And their miter saw stand is pretty much the same thing, where it's just a standalone stand, which means that you have to carry the tools independently or, you know, attached, which would be awkward. And now we're going to touch on Festool. I saw a video recently where they were talking about how they put all of their stands at 900 millimeters, which is 90 centimeters, obviously. And that gives them the capacity to be able to, basically, you can slide a workpiece from one work surface to another work surface, which is super handy. Now, before I saw that video, I had actually recorded all of this, and I used a portion of this footage for another video that I did in the past, but it was originally supposed to be this video, and I just got back around to it and decided to do it. Now here I'm just quickly setting up everything in regards to the Festool setup, and then once I get it all set up, then we're going to go ahead and check the level. So here we have the Festool setup, the KS60, the CS50, and then the MFT3, and we're going to check the level of all of these one to another. So this is my Milwaukee level. We're checking it, the table to the table saw, and as we get closer in here, we can see that it's level, which is good. So that means you can slide workpiece back and forth fairly easily. And then here's where I had a little bit of issue. When I set it up, I realized that even after altering the leg, it wasn't perfectly flush. There was a space. However, when I took my longer level and I used it across from the MFT table all the way over to the wing, it's fairly level. It's not perfect, but it's fairly level. As you can see here, you check the bubble here in the center. It's, you know, acceptable, especially for such a distance. So here we're measuring from the base of the KS60 over to the MFT3, and here you'll see that it's level. So the only issue I had was with the arm on the miter saw station. It wasn't perfectly level. Maybe there's some adjustment that I can make, but overall it's great. All right, here guys, I have my 670 FSK rail, the 250 FSK rail, and the 420 FSK rail. So I got a question about, I guess someone purchased, I believe they have the 420, and they said that it's probably about a half a degree off when it's set to 45 when he makes a cut. So I have all of these 3 rails set to 45, and I'm going to try to make a cut and see if I am getting the same results. So these are not cheap rails, and obviously the saw that goes with it is not cheap. The person that asked the question used this with the TS60. Now I have the TS60 here, but I'm going to use the HKC because it doesn't require a cord. I'm charging up a battery. Once that's charged, then we'll go ahead and make a couple cuts. So what I'll be cutting is this piece of pine board. This used to be a part of the fence that I had built that I cut down, and yeah, we'll just use this, and we'll use this as our reference piece. So we'll see how well it cuts a 45. So I think I'll just use these triangles to try to see if I'm getting a 45-degree angle. I have a digital device to measure angles somewhere here in the shop. Of course, I don't know where it is, and also we don't know if it's accurate. So even if I use it, it doesn't necessarily prove that it's accurate. All right, so I'm just going to clamp this board to my MFT to get my cuts. Let me find some clamps. All right, we've got a fully charged battery here. Let's pop it on the saw. All right. So I think working with the longer rail is going to be a little bit more cumbersome than the other one. So let's get that out of the way first. That's just how I am with work. I like to get the hardest thing done first. All right, I may have to use more boards because this one may, well, okay, I can get this all the way down on the edge. So I'm using, this is the main fixed reference, and this here is the adjustable one. If you take a look right here, I have it set at the 45-degree mark, and it is locked in there. It's in the tab. So the way you use the rail, you butt it up to the fixed side first, and then you swing the rail around to the other side. So the line that we're going to cut is right here. Let's go ahead and put the saw on the rail. And then now that we have it in the fixed position, I'm going to go ahead and cut. I also want to make sure that my saw is at the proper depth. All right, so there's our 45. Obviously we have a 45 here, but this is the piece that we have. Looks like I didn't go all the way through. I left a little nip on the end there. Okay, so I sand down the nib a bit. Let's pair it up. So that is a 45, meaning there's no light in between there. So what we want to do to confirm that is I'm going to cut another 45 and we're going to put them together and see how they do. Still left a little nip there. This is one offcut, and then this is the other one. So when we put them together like this, the seam is decent. All right, remember this is a construction saw, not a finished saw. And come right on in here and take a look at that. And then we take the square and butt it up. And based upon what I can see, it's a 90-degree angle with both of these put together. So it's 90 in that direction. And then it should be 90 in this direction as well. So based upon that particular cut, I do have accuracy with the long rail. So that's a 45 and a 45 put together, creating a 90. I wish I had that digital tool so I can show it in that aspect. But let's move on to the next rail. So this is the 420 rail, and you can see the fixed point, and this is the 45, which you can see, actually I have it at 60. Let me put it to 45. That would have been off. So I'll pull it down and adjust it to the 45 detent right there. Lock it in. As you can see, it's 45. And then we'll just butt it up against here and then pop it over. and we'll make this cut right here. That's going to be our 45. We're cutting it close. Let me get a longer piece of wood so I don't mess up my table or cut into something that I don't want to cut into. All right, we got our new piece of wood here. Let's go ahead and lock it down. All right, we got that in there. Butt it up on the back portion and then swing this one around. This is our 45 here. So let's take a look and see what we got here. So we got cut 1 and cut 2. We put them together. They appear to form a 90. Our square, this is the square that I trust. And I butt it up against here. And it does appear to be 90. And then let's check the other angle. And it's 90 here as well. So, okay, that's 2 for 2. Now, granted, the rail goes to the left and to the right. So I'm just using it going to one direction. This does not mean that the other angle is accurate. But this is what I'm going to test for right now. And slide it on. Oh, let's check it. So there's your fixed point, your 45 degree right here. Checking the top of the rail. This one goes to 45. Butt up the right side and then swing the other angle over. And we'll make the cut. Small nib down there at the bottom right. So we butt it up here, swing this around, and we'll give it a cut. And again, like right there, there's a little bit of a nib. So could be because I don't have it tied down and I'm kind of cutting it in free space potentially. I don't know. So you put this together. At least from this perspective, it looks like it is 90. There's the board kind of swings down here, so it's not completely level, probably due to some twisting. But let's see if it is square on the edge. And it does feel square on the edge to me here. On the eye test, it appears to be square. On the inside angle, it is the inside angle is square as well. So, I mean, I would say they're square. All right, guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space. So, this is day 8 of my exercise. Instead of having all the multiple angles, I'm just gonna do one angle and speed it up.